Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
And welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I am here joined with my co-host, Joshua Matotek. Hello.
Hi.
You're back. Last week you were in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I was back home.
Yeah, back home visiting some family. How was family? How was the Berg, baby? Steel City.
It was great, man. I went to trivia night, Altered Genius. Oh yeah, dude. That was sick.
Did you win anything?
Yeah. Actually, my team came in second.
Heck yeah.
And it was only because we are probably the best guessers in the tri-state area. We had no clue what we were talking about. But yeah, we got second.
Heck yeah.
It's pretty cool. Got a gift card that I can't spend, so
you can't use because you're not there.
Yeah, I was like, that's for you guys.
Hey man. That works.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Cool.
Did some sessions while I was home.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw you were working with. Who were you working with?
Cavern.
Yeah, you work on the Cavern up there.
Yeah, we just did it at my homie Sam's place.
Get some
getting the studio.
songs written.
Well, the studio that I would rent out back home, he's running SM9s, and there were increasingly more weird things that would happen. One day I texted him, I was like, hey, do you think that you have a phase issue? And he was like, well, no, because the dude who designed this room is the best in the world. And I was like, okay, cool. Great. Because there was always something really weird about the center channel. And last summer, we went there and we tracked drums, and boy, did those drums go crazy in that room. Everything sounded great. But then when I got it back, anything in the center channel just sounded horrible. And I was like, that's weird. And to the point where some of it was unusable. Had to replace
snares
drums. Oh, yeah.
Lot of shells.
I had one snare. It was on the first half of the album. Because we did a whole album in a day of just drums. It was easy. But I was sitting there and I was like, that's super clean. This song we kind of want more of a distorted sound. And so I turned it up the pre a little bit. I think it was a 1073. Mm-hmm. And so I just turned it up just a little bit, just for some of that saturation you get at the peak,
Yeah.
Because you never want to really distort a snare, or else then it's gonna be really, really hard to mix it with bleed and all that. And I got it back. It's the most distorted thing I've ever recorded.
Jeez.
Ever.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just okay.
This
all right.
Is not translating. That's
and
crazy.
then I also did this really cool thing where I didn't pan the toms at the time. Mm-hmm. And so thankfully the toms turned out okay, because I didn't overcook them. But the kick mic, the kick out was super, super just weird sounding. It sounded awesome in the room. I was like, that's the kick sound, dude. And then the kick in mic, it was just oh dude, that slaps. And I got it back, and the kick in mic sounds like it's flamming. And I don't
because
understand.
Of the delay was so bad?
No, I don't know what it is. I'm talking about just if you solo the mic, whenever the beater hits the drum, it sounds like it's going.
Just some insane slapback in the room somewhere or something like that?
No, I don't know what it is.
That's the only thing. That's where my mind would go immediately. Is is there just some insane reflection?
I know it's not Jay, because Jay is the best drummer in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So if his kick pedal was set up weird and he was getting a bounce every time that he was hitting the kick drum, he would have felt it.
Yeah, well, he would be able to
hear it when he was tracking. I also tried out the thing that Lee does, where he just finger tightens the batter head. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, cool. And you won't get any of that bounce if you finger tighten it.
No, because it'll just push.
Yeah, so I have no clue, but I distinctly remember listening to that first song and listening to, because like, I was like, hey, can you just like cut like the first verse or whatever, and then we'll go through each mic and make sure that everything's sounding good. He was like, sure. So we did that. We went through everything, and all three of us in the room were freaking out over how crazy the kick drum sounded, and then I got it back, and it was like both mics were basically unusable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like if I do anything like that there again, like I'm gonna have to take monitoring with me.
Yeah. Or like, I mean, I assume you checked it on headphones, so, or did you? Okay, so maybe just bring in some headphones.
This was before I had my my Neumanns.
Oh, so maybe just bringing the Neumanns with you will kind of mitigate some of that next time.
So now, even if I'm going somewhere just to like hang out and like there's a possibility that I'll be doing something, I still bring my headphones.
Bring your
just
cans,
in case.
100%.
Because I'm super weird about it now, especially because I'm so used to working on those headphones that like it used to be that like focals were like how my ears were like tuned, and then I heard PMCs and I was like, you know what, this is even better. And now it's like
more of my brain.
I've been working on the Neumann so much that I'll go work on Lee's PMCs and I'm like, oh, these are bright.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. Like, I don't know, I'm not upset about it because whenever
I think it's a good change of pace.
Yeah, like whenever I get my new room together, like it'll be a lot easier to pick out speakers because I'm just gonna buy KH310s and that'll be the end of it,
Yeah.
But so I was like, you know what, let's just do it in a bedroom, and that's what we did, and it was really, really fun.
Well, at least you got some stuff done though, because like it's always fun, at least for me, it's always fun to go do something like out of town and like, be able to squeeze in a little bit of studio session time or something like that.
And then it was cool because like I also had a couple days where I went through and just hung out because it's always weird like showing up and being like, hey, let's hang out and work. I haven't seen you for months. Let's work.
Yeah, but also we do kind of need to get some work done. Cool. Well, that's good, man. Glad that you got there and back and safe.
Yeah, I think
some
it was
friends and family.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's also like I did this thing for this one song where we were just kind of hanging out, figuring out what to do, and Sam had just built this guitar and he was like playing it in the other room through his basement, and he was playing this one riff, and I was like, who is that? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, all right. And I just started recording it off the vocal mic that was in the middle of the room, and literally built out an entire track just by playing guitar and not even miking it up properly. And so that was
sometimes
fun.
It happens that way.
It was he's like sitting there listening to it and he's like, maybe I should stop caring so much. I was like, sometimes you really shouldn't.
Sometimes you just don't give a crap. You just hit record and go.
I think that could be like a whole episode on it in itself.
Not caring. Yeah.
Like I do that so often, and then like the one demo that I was working on the other day, like I didn't mic up my guitar properly, and like for the verse it was like so good, and like for the pre it sounded really good, but then like I just flew over the same guitars for the end of the song, and it's like, no, that needs to be like close mic'd.
Yeah,
like, it needs brighter. Like a small diaphragm condenser on it,
Yeah. Well, there's interesting news in the world of audio and stuff today. Well, I think it happened like last week or 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Something like that.
I'm gonna pull it up. Josh, I don't think you've read anything about this yet, so I'm just gonna pull it up and we're gonna check it out together.
I haven't read. I heard about it. I haven't read anything.
They just announced Logic Pro for the iPad. They announced Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro for the iPad, which is pretty nutty. Logic Pro is more on the lines of like it's easier to get a hold of. For Final Cut, it's a lot more intensive, so that you need the higher end chips for it. Like I think the minimum is M1. But for Logic Pro, you can actually get it on the A15 Bionic, which is what my iPad Air is, and I got my iPad Air for like $300. So
it looks like I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. I'm just gonna. Is that the?
Wait, no. Stay on that picture. Stay on that picture. Is that? Are those the effects right there?
Yes. So yeah, that's what I was gonna talk to you about.
Is Logic always like that? Because it looks like Ableton.
So no, Logic isn't always like this from what I remember. This actually, so I think what they did, they kind of rebuilt Logic. They didn't keep Logic the same. They didn't keep Logic the same as it is in like the computer version. They took, I think, what they built for GarageBand, because they've already had GarageBand on the iPad for a while. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think they took that infrastructure and then they kind of rebuilt GarageBand to be more like with Logic stuff, basically. It's really cool. I do like the keyboard that's down there. I don't mind it. No, I don't mind it. If you got to think, like, people that are just starting out, this is really cool. Oh, also, so I'll say pricing up front. It's like $5 a month. Or $50 a year, which they're trying to hop on that monthly plan, which is a departure from normal Logic, which is just like $200 flat.
Yeah, I don't know. So like,
which kind of sucks.
There's this whole thing in music where like companies keep trying to find ways to like make music easier to make while you're like on the go. While I think it's really beneficial, like, I also think it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it can suck. Like, I'm like, super interested in this.
Here is how I look at it. Okay, if you're on tour, right, and you're in a hotel parking lot, okay, and you're like, you hear something, you want to record it, cool. Bust it out, get it down. Like, that's perfect, you know? But I don't entirely see like how practical this is.
I'm actually super intrigued by the fact that you could. So iPads are getting more and more powerful, and are they
drawing in clip gain on that left photo?
They're drawing in automation.
Automation, that's cool.
Yeah. So. They're drawing in automation with the Apple Pencil. You can also do things like cut and edit and like use the slice tool with the pencil. So like you can do all your drum editing with the Apple Pencil.
That can save a lot of people's wrists.
That's pretty sick.
That can save a lot of people's wrists.
Because they do this. They do a similar thing in Final Cut where you can do edits with your Apple Pencil, and you can actually draw in, like, you can draw on the screen. And it will just automate that drawing as like a video on Final Cut. But that's more cool. Final Cut stuff. Yeah. But for Logic, it's interesting. I think that there is going to be a movement of some people moving over to just a iPad workflow, I think.
So here's where I think it's going to kill, right? There are so many songwriters who really don't have like the technical abilities, right?
Exactly.
Or like think about it this way. Like, there are so many people who are millionaires from writing songs who don't know how to operate a DAW. And that's perfectly fine, because like their job is to show up and it's somebody else's job to do all that.
Yep.
But I think making it easier for people to like be creative is really cool. I think like, I guess like the idea of like doing like drum edits, you know, while you're like on a bus or whatever is pretty cool. But my main concern is like storage.
So that's what I was going to get to. I'm not sure about the storage. I'll get to the storage in a second, actually, because I want to talk about something else first. One, I love the sequencer that they've added. If you look at this picture right here, they have a pretty solid sequencer. And I'm thinking this might actually work really well for people who use sample heavy beat makers. This actually might be very interesting for sample heavy beat makers who want to go digital and not go MPC.
Well, here's the deal though. All right. So you're going to have to buy plugins again, which sucks. Like, that's already a thing. Like, they have like the mobile version of plugins. They have like the Fab Filter bundle. They have Waves.
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna pull up down here. It shows you. They also have sample packs. So like, they have a take a day trip producer sample pack.
Yeah, but it's also like, I'm not trying to buy more sample packs.
And Well, it's not, and I'm not saying it's for somebody like you, right?
Yeah,
I'm thinking this is like, for somebody brand new. They already have FabFilter. They already have. Let's see. Where's the one I found? There was a picture somewhere here where they were talking about. They were showing plugins. Here it is. So yeah.
They have a full mixer screen. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and this is and the ability to jump your projects directly from your iPad. Yeah, it is. And this is the Black Hole.
I mean, like, it's super
Eventide plugin, and then this is the Moog synth stuff.
Yeah.
And then it does take
cool.
MIDI interface things, and so you can just use a normal keyboard and all that. I'm super intrigued by this because I would love to try it out just to make a beat on it. But like you said, I worry about storage.
Yeah, so
samples.
like storage is going to be a massive issue. Like, think about it. Like, if you're just editing drums on one song, like that could be a 30 gigabyte session.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull up the current baseline iPad Air. Let's see what the max storage we can get on the current baseline iPad Air.
I don't think it goes to 250, does it? Or 1 terabyte.
It goes to 250 gigs. It doesn't go to 1 terabyte. 250 gigs is the max storage on the current iPad Air.
Yeah, you're gonna blow through that in a couple days.
Now,
so like your next option is the iPad Pro,
which currently is, let's see, 2 terabyte.
And you're probably gonna want the 12.9, right?
Yeah, for the screen retail.
Yeah, and that's as much as a M2 Mac.
Yes.
So
I agree.
I mean, that's the cost of a Mac Studio.
Now, the interesting part is, and I haven't figured out if this is the case yet. Does it support external storage capacity?
Yes. So that's the thing with iPads. They do, but
no, I know they do.
Port.
Well, you can expand that. So it also takes dongles.
I don't think that it's going to be like the way that Apple's file system is.
That's where I'm struggling.
Yeah, that's where it's going to be held back, because I don't think that you can just like plug in like a Samsung drive and like record to it on an iPad. I don't think it's that built out. And if it was, then cool. Like, okay, now what we're looking at is
then you're looking at a super viable beat making system that you could get for like $500.
Yeah, and it's like, but at the end of the day, it's like in order for you to do any of this, like at the capacity that we do music, we'd be looking at a top end iPad. They would have to completely redo how the iPad OS is.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're looking at a touchscreen laptop. And so it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's super cool for people who want to get into it.
I think
it's also going to be cool, like if people were making demos and then they send you could just send a Logic file to a producer.
Exactly.
But also, the biggest issue about this entire thing is that how many people have we seen leave Logic recently? Like, I'm talking recently, within the past 3 months, simply because of how terrible Logic is right now.
100%. I think this is a attempt to bring some of those either. I think this is an attempt to either bring the people back that are like, I wish Logic, was more mobile or more friendly, or it's an attempt to keep existing people while also bringing in new people. Because another thing that me and you didn't really have is that schools require kids to have an iPad. So they already have an iPad 90% of the time.
I'm sorry, I just lost you for like 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry. No, I was saying schools require kids to have iPads nowadays.
Well, you know,
so a lot of them are already getting. I'm saying this is them, I think, attempting to meet the next generation of producers where they're at with what they already have.
That is true. There's so many kids now that don't understand how computers work.
Exactly, because they just know an iPad better. So yeah. I think this is honestly, if Apple can figure out the file management and project navigation like system, and make the ability to get, you know, plugins and stuff or samples and stuff onto your iPad easier. I don't think the plugins thing is ever going to happen. I think they're going to try to double down and make some extra money by having, you know, all that stuff in their store, which is fair.
Here's how I look at it. Until licenses are able to go from mobile to PC, and until you're able to have a way to sort out storage, then this is almost like completely not viable. You know,
not on a professional level. Not on a professional level.
Even think about this. Like, imagine whenever like we were like learning, you know, and it's like you're just not going to be able to do that on an iPad Air. Like, you're going to run out of processing power and RAM extremely fast. And I don't know. Like, it could be cool for like auxiliary work, you know, like editing something, doing whatever. But at the same time, it's like Logic is so buggy. Like, there's no shot that I would even attempt to use Logic right now. So
that's the problem. In an ideal situation, this is most usable. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second. This is most usable in a scenario of on a professional level, right? This is most usable for me is I'm on a train. I already use Logic as my main DAW.
You're on a train?
I'm on a train, or I'm on a plane, or like I'm in a car, you know, and I don't have a lot of room for my laptop.
I'm sorry. I just like pictured you just getting on like the Greenville Express. And I was like, where do we live?
I mean, people take trains.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
It doesn't
take trains
here,
all the time. But they take, you know, getting in a car for a long drive or getting in a plane where you don't have a whole lot of like elbow room or something. Long period of time, and you're just like, I want to make something quick. I want to start a project, right? So you hop on your iPad, you have your samples plugged in, you know, your samples you use all the time, and you start dropping them in and just kind of building a beat with some stuff that you already have in your sample library.
So
then that project, when you land, gets ported over immediately to your computer, and you open it up in, you know, full Logic on your computer, and then you're like, okay, cool, and then I finish making the beat.
All right, I have a serious question for you.
Yes.
All right.
I'm just saying that is like probably their most ideal use case.
I feel like there's this whole thing in music where they like market this idea of like, oh, you can make music on the go anywhere, dude. You can make it anywhere. Have you ever actually bought into that and tried to make music on an airplane?
I've made beats on an airplane before. Never in a car.
How many of them have come out?
I've sold one. But I also don't fly that much.
Every time I've tried to make beats somewhere else other than my own domain or at like another person's, like, we'll call it a workspace. Okay. Yeah. If I am not at a workspace, I have yet to make anything remotely good, because like, I feel like there's something to be said about having like the sacred place where it's like, oh yeah, this is where I go to make music. Or like if I'm writing songs anywhere else, it's like, I don't want to have like an iPad in front of me. Like, I want a guitar, like a voice note, you know. It's like that's, I don't know. I think it's super cool.
Yeah. I think it's selling an idea. I don't know how feasible that idea is for...
I don't think it's very feasible.
Well, for professionals, it's definitely not feasible. I think that's the other issue is it's really not that big of a deal to just get your laptop out. It's really not. You know what I mean?
At the end of the day, that's all it comes down to.
That.
And it's like, I don't know, like I was saying, for me, it's like
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I just lost you for like 10 seconds.
You made that face. But anyway.
Nice. You made that face.
but no, I think, like I said, I've gotten on a plane multiple times pre-COVID and would just pop my laptop out and work. And it's not that big of a deal to just pop. It's kind of understood, you know, that people just get their laptops out, and that's cool. Like, I guess it's cumbersome and it's a space. I'm just saying the most ideal version of what they want you to buy into is the idea of something smaller that you can get out in a crowded place. But is that actually feasible?
Yes, I was just about to say that. That's exactly what it is. It feels like we're being sold this idea of like, oh, like making music on the go is like the next big thing. But it's like, we've already been able to do that for years. And I will say that even though like my laptop is way bigger than an iPad, like, and I have hard drives and all that stuff, it's still less cumbersome than dealing with the software side of a tablet.
Yes. Now, I do know what they're trying to do, and I've seen this more and more. There are people, especially people that are more, people that like do more less intensive, CPU intensive things, are slightly switing over to just going full iPad.
Yeah, but then
like it's
once again,
a little more cloud based or something like that, right?
The cloud stuff is like a cool way to like avoid a lot of the headache.
Yes.
So I could get behind that. Like Ableton's note thing is actually really cool.
It's really sick. And but that is another way that they actually are doing a better job of letting you create on the go and then just drop it in. Or Andrew Wong's app that he has does the exact same thing that Ableton's Note does. And honestly, in my opinion, that app is a little better. It's called the Flip app.
Because I think though, like the difference in these two things is that like Ableton is looking at it from a practical perspective, while Apple is trying to revolutionize the audio industry. Because that's all Apple's ever done. You know, they set out, they're like, hey, we want to revolutionize whatever this thing is.
Yeah.
Everyone hated tablets until Apple released their iPad.
And even then, people hated the iPad for the first like 2 iterations of it.
Dude, do you remember when iPhones dropped and you're like, what's an app?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, hey, here we are, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I get it. Or like iCloud, you know, you're like, what's a cloud? You know, it's like they've done all of these things. While they might not be the first to do it, they're the first one to do it really, really well and popularize it. And so I feel like that's what they're trying to do.
So on that note, before you continue, they are not the first to do this in an iPad format either. Your boys over at Steinberg have had Cubase on iPad. It is called Cubasis. Yeah. And it's essentially Cubase LE on your iPad. Yeah. And I think it does the exact same thing, right? Because you can just take the sessions and port it over to Cubase and all that stuff. And FL Studio also has it.
Yeah, and that's the reason why all of these plugins are available.
Yeah, and Cubasis is $24, I believe, one-time payment. And FL Studio is $14. I also believe one-time payment. I don't think either of those are monthly.
Yeah.
But those are significantly cheaper than Logic. If you want to go for this iPad system, like if you're like, oh, I'm a dude who has a normal job and I use mainly my iPad, but I want to record, some guitar or something like that, I would almost recommend going for Cubasis or FL Studio on iPad rather than Logic, because it's not a yearly or monthly payment. It's a one-time $24 thing.
I'll also just go out there and say it, though. It's like the same features aren't available on Cubasis. Like Very Audio isn't there. And like the way I look at it, it's
true.
like I'm not
they're really selling this full Logic Studio on the iPad thing.
Yeah, and like
It's
that has
not a
built-in
watered down.
that has built-in tuning. I don't know how good it is. I don't think I've ever met someone who like swears by Logic tuning.
I know people that
But-
use it for demos.
Yeah, it's like it's always just comes back to, oh yeah, I got to Melodyne it, and then it's like Cubase users are like, Melodyne sounds terrible. I'd rather use Very Audio. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's kind of like a cash grab. Like I don't think that we're actually going to see people like sitting there and like working off tablets just because of how inconvenient it is. Because here's another thing. Like if you think about it, the Slate Raven has existed for years. And how many people bought those and they're like, yeah, I just use it as big monitor.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
those got sold really quickly once 4K monitors got cheaper.
touching a screen and doing something or doing any process without key commands is a massive pain, Like
We also come from this is something I think that Apple may not necessarily understand. We come from, as audio professionals, we come from a world of mostly keyboard related stuff. It's almost kind of like PC gamer language.
That's exactly what it is. That would be like mobile games aren't taking off because people hate playing games on a touch screen. So now they started releasing controllers and all that. And people were like, yeah, but like it still kind of sucks because like my phone can't run anything crazy. So now after the Switch came out, then the Steam Deck was like, yo, like we could do this, but with like PC games. And now like the Asus ROG Ally is coming out. And it's like that thing is going to slap. But guess what? It's a computer.
Yeah. And you
dedicated
also have,
to the craft.
You also have phones that can do the game streaming stuff, which is like kind of another avenue, which can do pretty well from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something in the music industry that hasn't been tapped in right there.
Yeah.
Maybe like DAW streaming or something like that.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. The way that I see it being revolutionized is two different ways. You either need to do like what like Razer dropped an Android tablet, which I heard sucks.
It's not
but like
good.
it sucks. But then Logitech dropped the G Cloud,
And that thing's been ripping.
and apparently that thing is sick, and it's only $300. So what you're telling me is I could go anywhere, and as long as I have a decent internet connection, I could play any game off my Xbox. That's sick. So you would have to do essentially the same thing for audio, which you can already like remote in. Like who was talking about doing that during COVID? Baines was talking about how he would literally like get all of his stuff set up and then like send it to his other computer back in LA and then remote into it and then go ahead and run it through his like analog gear. And it's like, okay, so like that's already possible and people do it. And then on top of that, using some sort of like remote access is going to be way less buggy than anything that comes out new specifically for DAWs. You know what I mean?
It's
because like the technology's been around for like 2 decades now.
Yeah. It's going to take iPad's storage and the file, like we said, the file system thing is what I keep getting hung up on, like because I have all of my stuff on like 2 hard drives, right? That I back up to. Why am I going to do it? Why am I going to do a whole new system on my iPad whenever I should just be able to USB-C plug in the side like I do everything else and read it?
Have you ever tried to save a voice message on your iPhone?
I don't think so.
So if you long hold on voice messages, it like pops up like a QuickTime file. You can save them. All right. I have saved numerous. Do you know where they are? I have no clue. They aren't in my files. They aren't in my voice memos.
Downloads.
Apparently they're getting saved, but I can't find them.
The file system for the iPhone and iPad definitely needs to be fixed a little bit.
I just lost you.
No, you're good. My internet's being buggy today. I'm not sure. I think it's an interesting first step. I think this is very much I think this is the first gen Apple TV version of this.
Yeah. So where I see this going crazy is if they gave full support to Adobe products. But the thing is that like Maddie talks about it constantly about how like she has like a drawing tablet and she doesn't use it. She's like, no, because like keyboard and mouse or like keyboard and trackpad is way more accurate and it's faster whenever I'm doing anything with graphics. And then whenever she's drawing, she's using I think it's Procreate.
Yeah, for iPad, because Procreate's insanely accurate.
Yeah, and it's like that makes sense because you're drawing and you have a pencil, you know? Yeah. And so it just kind of feels like imagine someone who's like I don't know how to describe it. It feels like you're changing the tools in which someone is programmed to work. So like would you ever look at someone who's like in IT, right? Like they're a pen tester or they're in coding or whatever. You're like, all right, now do your job on an iPad. They're going to be like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
You know, why would I do that?
That's true.
And so it's just like, it just feels kind of weird.
I do know there are people that make beats on GarageBand right now. And it's mostly people that are doing like tracking, like basses and guitars and stuff, and that's just how they just have like a mic, a small USB-C interface, and then they either plug in direct or mic up whatever they're going to mic up and then track. And they're only tracking like a couple things, right? And then they're sending it off as like they make guitar packs or bass packs or perk packs or things like that, and that's what they kind of use to build that stuff. I know that that's a thing. I don't think for the producer where we're kind of looking at, like the more pro level producer doing this all the time, 24/7. I don't necessarily know that this is for them, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm fully wrong.
No, I don't think that you're wrong at all. And I also think it's wrong to like market this to people trying to get into it and
I think that's
like it's
their
more
aim.
Convenient.
I think that's their aim. Because like, the price point says that. The price point makes that make sense.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
$5 a month.
And it's like, okay, cool. So now what we're going to have is we're going to have a bunch of kids who are learning how to do stuff on an iPad. Then whenever they level up and they start working at like actual studios and stuff, they're going to be like, oh, I have no clue how to do any of this or they're going to be, it's going to be like, have you ever used Pro Tools? And it's like, well, no. And it's like, why not? And it's like, well, it's because it's not available on iPad,
Yeah.
And it's like, well, or have you used Cubase? Well, I've used Cubasis. And it's like, okay, well, that's not actually Cubase.
Yeah. I think the logic behind their their thinking is, all right, we're going to get these kids that are on iPads and they dabble with GarageBand. And they're like, well, I want a little something more, right? So then they get...
The way every time you say kids on iPads, I think of just iPad kids. Could you imagine what the iPad kids are going to be like when they grow up?
Exactly. But yeah, kids that are just like constantly on an iPad that decide to go into GarageBand and start making music. And they're like, I want more. They get the $5 a month thing and they level up to Logic and they start doing that. And then I think their thought is by the time they are late high school or about to graduate or something and their parents get them a laptop, they're like, okay, well, I want to get Logic for the computer, right? And so now they've transitioned them into big Logic on the computer from Logic on the iPad. I think that's like the train of thought. And now they've bought somebody into their Logic ecosystem from the ground up. But the other thing that's I would be majorly pissed off about is I've bought all these plugins on iPad to work on, and then I graduate and go to the computer, and now I have to spend like 5 times more to buy all my FabFilter plugins again.
Yeah, dude,
I would be livid.
Like, it still just comes back to like the tools that we use to get a job done. You know, it's like, think about PC gaming. Like PC gaming was huge because it was like, oh, like we can get we can get these crazy specs and it's better than a console and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And now it's like, we're at a point now where all the people I know who are on PCs do nothing but like complain about them, besides like maybe 3 people that I know.
Yeah.
And it's like we have one friend who like spent like $1,500 on a PC. And then like we're sitting there, we're playing on $300 consoles, having a blast. And the whole time he's like, my game keeps crashing and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, so the reason why consoles are so big is because you have this specialty device to run this specialty thing. And you're able to communicate with it in whatever way is most comfortable for you. Now the keyboard and mouse are supported on all these next gen consoles. So it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. So now what's happening is you notice a lot of the gaming laptop companies, they're dropping more creator laptops.
Yeah.
Because people don't want gaming laptops. If they're on the go, they're going to go buy a Steam Deck because that thing is sick, you know?
Yeah.
And you're able to run Cyberpunk on a $600 device. Why would you spend $2,000 on a computer to do it?
The gaming laptop community is really geared towards, or the developers are really geared towards somebody like me, right? Where I don't have a gaming PC already. I don't play a lot, but I would love to play some stuff on Steam or, you know, with my friends online. That I am the person that speaks to, but it is way too expensive right now.
That's exactly where I'm at.
So expensive.
Like, and
I will say I have found one with great specs that I'm actually seriously considering for $1,000. I'll send it to you. It is like very, very good.
Here's what you have to worry about, though.
Then I could just get a PS5.
Yeah, the build quality sucks, and then it's going to overheat, and it's going to suck, and it's going to be loud, and then the screen's going to suck, and the keys are going to feel like garbage, and then the trackpad will never work because it's a Windows trackpad. And it's like, you run into all these things where it's like, it's been years and they still haven't figured out how to make a decent Windows laptop. There's like 3 on the market and none of them are really capable of doing what we need them to do, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna get you the it is the, if you're interested, it is the Gigabyte Aorus 15 BMF. I'm gonna link this.
Those are good.
I'm gonna link.
They're
$1,000. They're $1,000.
But then
I'm going to link.
You
I'm gonna link this video.
Reliability of all these.
I'm gonna link this video in the show notes. If you are interested in it, this dude named Bob Wolf from Wolf Den did a really good breakdown of the laptop. I'm also texting you the link so you can watch it later.
Yeah.
Yes, continue.
But it's like you run into the fact that like okay, gaming laptops are exactly how Logic on iPad feels, because it's like you buy a gaming laptop so you could go play games on an airplane or whatever, but then guess what? You find out you only have 2 hours of battery life. Then it's going to be super loud and hot, and like it's just completely the opposite of what you want from a mobile gaming experience. Plus, there are so many people that are on PC that use a controller that now you're setting up a gaming laptop to then use a controller. And so people like Nintendo, people like whoever made the Steam Deck, you know, it's like it's literally...
my gosh, you just messed me up.
Like they literally figured out how to bridge the gap. It's like we're not forcing people to interact with this software in a way that they don't want to.
Valve, golly, that was going to bother the heck out of me.
There we go.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of what everything is like in the music industry right now. Even 100%. Like the mobile, like the battery powered beat systems, it's like... Yeah. It's the same thing as a gaming laptop. You get terrible battery life.
The coolest version of that was the MPC keys that me and you talked about like a while back.
That's not mobile though.
But I'm saying that is the most non-computer based rig. That's the coolest non-computer based rig that I see as feasible.
Yeah.
I will say we had these same conversations probably 7 or 8 years ago with, can you make music on a laptop in a big studio? At that point you really couldn't because it wasn't viable, but now you could buy a baseline Apple M1 and just full send it. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, by the way, I found out that Cubase runs way better on Windows. So it's funny that we started talking about gaming laptops, because I literally just went to Best Buy while I was home just to see like what specs are like now, because I haven't looked at gaming laptops in years. And then the one worker there told me adamantly that every single Windows 12th gen and all of the 13th gen processors blow Apple out of the water. And I was like, sir, I know people with laptops that run sessions as big as the sessions that their Mac Pros were running. And he was like, yeah, I don't know about that. He was like, these ones, though, all you need to do is get a cooling mat for it. And if you get a cooling mat, they'll do the same thing. And I was like, I don't believe it's made out of plastic.
Yeah, sir. I don't believe that. Mainly because I literally watched somebody roll up to a massive studio that was running one of those huge spec'd out multi $20,000 towers or whatever. And he rolled up with his laptop and ran the session smoother with his master train on.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. On like the lowest possible sample.
Like, I don't know. At the end of the day, bro, like, benchmarks don't lie. The Intel 13th gen is going to be really, really good. Yeah. You know, but it's like, it just doesn't matter, dude.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that we need to land on, I think, on the end of this is, if this is the iPad stuff, I don't necessarily think that it's the move. It won't be the move for us. Guaranteed will not be the move for us. I can totally see this being the move for some people in certain situations, right? It's a very, very, very niche case basis. But I will also agree that Final Cut Pro for iPad is also very niche case basis. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're kind of filling this weird gap of like casuals or very, very new people.
Here's another thing about Final Cut. Okay, so Final Cut, the graphics in it, it's open. Oh man, it's been years since I had to know this stuff. Yeah. But basically, like, the architecture of how they like coded Final Cut, it's to work with the chipsets that Apple use more efficiently. Yeah. So like, a lot of people were like, oh, well, like, why would you buy this This like, we're talking like 2015. Yeah. So like, they'd be like, why would you buy this laptop if, like, for video editing, whenever like you can just go work on Windows and like you're gonna get a much powerful computer? And it's like, well, because technically the way that Final Cut's coded, it's going to run better on this computer than
it's the same
one of
idea.
The Adobe products on a Windows.
It's the same idea as like the silicon Apple silicon infrastructure, but digital, not physical. And so Final Cut on iPad, I can almost make sense of it, because you know that they were really thinking about Final Cut whenever they were making Logic's built
all
out
their new chips.
A similar infrastructure for the most part.
Yeah, but it still doesn't work.
No, it's not. Well, so that's the other problem, and that is the difference that I see. I agree with you, is that I see people all the way up to like massive YouTubers and people doing film work using Final Cut, right? But everybody that I know that uses Logic professionally has been dipping slowly but surely, and I think you agree with me. I think that we had like 2 or 3 people that we know. I think Moshe also dipped Logic recently for Cubase, right?
Yeah, literally every single person I know who used to be on Logic is now on Cubase
or Ableton.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people that jump from Logic to Ableton.
And at the end of the day, I think, like, instead of telling kids, hey, you can make music on Logic on your iPad, what we should be telling kids is that, like, you can rent to own full DAWs and then own them on Splice, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's like,
I think that is a much better, I think that is a huge, honestly, yeah, I'm going to look up Splice's rent to own thing real quick while you're talking. Keep going.
They also do payment plans for Ableton. And it's like, I don't know. I think any kid that's starting out should basically be told, look, you save up, buy a decent laptop, download Ableton. There's plenty of stuff in there for you to learn how to make music. Then, once you get to a certain point, go get Pro Tools and actually learn Pro Tools through and through. I have the books if you want to borrow them. And then go from there. But like, I think like in today's like world, like everyone should just start with Ableton and then learn Pro Tools and then go to whatever DAW they want after that.
So I'm not seeing Ableton, and maybe it's somewhere, and I'm just not seeing it.
It's not on Splice. It's on Ableton's site.
Oh, they rent to own. They rent to own. Gotcha. So Splice will let you do Cubase, it will let you do Bitwig, and it'll let you do Studio One, which I would say like Cubase and Studio One of those two are like still really great. Cubase Pro 12 is $17 a month, which is like that's super easy, and it's the same for Studio One. So Studio One is also $17 a month.
Yeah, I think
rent to own.
I think that Studio One would be a great thing for everybody to learn first. I mean, I learned it first, and then I switched to Pro Tools.
It translates. About to say it translates easier to Pro Tools. It kind of translates to everything, from what I understand.
Live Suite is more money. I thought it used to be like $600.
No, it's like $800.
So
it's expensive.
Yeah, you can get Live Standard for 6 payments of $74.85.
Yeah. So yeah, if you could save up a little bit of money, do that. Or I would say do the Splice rent to own, even if you can't afford that. Splice rent to own is crazy inexpensive.
Well, also,
$15 a month.
Did you know that you can upgrade certain features of Studio One?
I did know that. Yeah, Studio One is more. We're getting back into the DAW conversation, but yeah,
they have Sphere. But like, I don't know, like I just don't see it as viable, like, because it feels like you're just setting people up for failure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you want to do it seriously and do it well, just like understand there's a certain threshold of hardware that you need.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be more convenient if you're on an iPad. To me, it sounds like it's way more of a headache, you know?
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think it's geared towards the dabbler, the person who's very, very like, I just want to mess around and try some, you know what I'm saying? Or somebody who's brand new and just starting, and they're just trying to learn about some stuff. I think that's probably who it's going to be best for, honestly. Do I think do they need to stick with them? Personally, no. I would say go, and if you're starting to get serious about music production, like, you know, go to one of these rent to own places, or honestly just just save up $200 and like go get a DAW, or $200 or $300 and go get a DAW, like a full one, just straight up go get Cubase or like Ableton Standard or whatever.
Or you know what? Here's the real thing.
Or test with Pro Tools. Or test with Pro Tools, because you can just pay monthly for that and then cancel it when you don't want to use it anymore.
Well, I mean, also, if you're starting out, Pro Tools sucks. But
that's true. It is kind of a pain to learn.
Plus, like, cross grades are a thing. I paid $300 for Cubase.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah, because you can do the cross grade stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I would just do that. Just get a cross grade. Go buy a license of Reaper, and then go get a cross grade. I don't know if you're allowed to use Reaper. But
yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, there are other things. There are other things that, cross grades are a thing with Cubase specifically. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think this is, I wanted to talk about it because I found it super interesting. Yeah. And I think it's an interesting conversation to have. It's not super viable for professionals, and really it's not even super viable for people that are like trying to take it seriously. But honestly, anything below that threshold, sure, right?
Because you're gonna need like some crazy dock for it, and a dock alone is gonna be like $200 or $300. Then you're still gonna need an interface, and then like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it's. Then you run into bottlenecking, and like you have to worry about that. It's just like, I don't know, just give me more ports.
Yeah, well, it can run multiple ports. I wish it, because it can have like my iPad has too. I really want to try to get it just to mess around with it. I'll pay for like 1 month. Maybe I'll pay for 1 month of it and just mess around with it and see how it goes and see how quickly I can just like physically find a problem with it.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty cool. You should. I don't own an iPad because this is a really funny thing to bring up to me, because the reason why I don't own an iPad is because I've always had the thought of, well, I have a cell phone, and I have a laptop. Like, what do I need an iPad for? Like, they're annoying. It's like, you want to watch something on it, you have to like hold it or like prop it up. Guess what? Laptops, they just prop up. Phones, they're easier to hold.
You want to watch something?
Lost you. I was just saying, like, whenever you're like trying to watch something, it's like a laptop or a phone is way more convenient than an iPad.
Yeah, I use an iPad, and this is really specific. So I have all of the Apple things. So my Mac Studio is my main workhorse for my studio. My laptop is essentially just a mobile copied version of my Mac Studio, but it can't run. It's an older MacBook Pro, so it can't run as much at one time. But I use it for mobile recording, or like if I need to go to another studio and work. That's what I use it for. Is like basically a mobile version of my studio. My phone, I use my phone for whatever. My iPad, I actually specifically use it for like office-y kind of tasks. So like keeping up with email, doing my scheduling, like doing all of my what is up with my internet today? I don't
know. It sucks.
I don't know.
Well, it could be mine too.
It could be yours.
Who knows?
But like email, task management, like keeping up with my calendar, like that's what I use my iPad for, because it makes me like not work on music.
My mom really likes an iPad because like she'll just sit there and like get caught up on everything, and like she'll read on it and stuff.
Yeah, I do that too.
I bought a book for the first time in a long time.
Bro, that's a hefty read.
I know. I'm excited to
it's really good
into it. I'm trying to knock out at least the first 2 books before the new movie comes out. Yeah. But still, it's like I would rather not look at any excess blue light than what I need to.
Yeah, that's why I have a Paperlike. I have a Kindle for that.
I thought about getting one of those.
I have one.
I really did, but then having the physical books, I feel like is better for me because I have to look at them all the time. Kindle is like smaller, and I'll be like, maybe one day. But if I see all these books piling up, then I'm like, I need to read them.
I use Audible, bro. I have multiple copies of stuff on Kindle and on physical, and it's like I'll read it. It just depends. But anyway, I use an iPad more for like businessy kind of things, and I never really thought about using it for anything more than that. Mainly because it's like a work. I think we've talked about this before, but it's like having places to work, or like if you can't have places to work, like having different things that you work on to kind of separate your brain, you know? So like if I'm on this setup that I'm on right now, I'm working on music or business stuff. But if I'm on my iPad, I'm working on scheduling and task management. And I don't do either or on the other thing.
Yeah.
That way I can focus. It helps. It's just my ADHD brain. It helps me like focus on specific things. So it does a little bit. Having the stuff on iPad just does a little bit less for me in that. Like I'm never going to use it because that's not what I use an iPad for.
Yeah.
But no, I think we can call it here. That was overall a solid convo, except for my internet, or one of our internet kept cutting out, but whatever. Overall, I would love to hear feedback from other people also. What do you think about this iPad stuff? Is this something that you're interested in? Are you using it? If you are using it, I'm going to try to use it and see how it goes, and I'll report back. And kind of give us a little bit of I'm not going to buy any third-party plugins or anything like that.
Let's take it a step further. If you're using iPads for work, also send us the work.
Yeah, I would love to hear the work. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Like, I just don't think that, like...
And on that note, we have a Discord where you can share that work.
Yeah.
And it is in the description of this episode, whether you're on YouTube watching us or if you're listening to us, the link to the Discord is in there as well. So if you are working on iPad, we have a server specifically for sharing your work. Say, hey, I made this on Logic or Cubasis or whatever for iPad, and drop it in there.
And then that way, if it sucks, we can all agree that it sucks.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be like, okay, great. Well, you know, I've yet to hear. That's like, I hate being that guy.
Yeah.
But gear, you know, it's like we talk about gear all the time. And in a lot of ways, gear does not matter. In a lot of ways, gear really matters. And so one of the ways that I judge if a piece of gear is something that I should pay attention to is whether or not I respect work that is done with that gear.
And this is so new that we haven't really had time to hear anything come from it that we know of. Now, there could be some stuff that we don't know of, but that we know of, I know there are a couple people that do sample packs and things like that for GarageBand, but I haven't heard any like big songs that are like, this song was fully produced on GarageBand or in Logic Pro on iPad. Like it was fully produced on iPad.
Even if it's just like a production demo or like, yo, I ran a session on an iPad. I'd love to see that. That would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
That
would actually be wild. I would love to see like, yo, I got a beat and I was doing a vocal tracking session on an iPad.
Yeah, but it's like, I want to see the setup. Like I want to know what interface you're running, what dongle you're using, like how are you like managing storage. Like I want to know all about it because like, you know.
100%. Well, on that note, hop in the Discord. If you're doing that, share your stuff. We got like Discord's up to like over 20. We crossed 20, which is pretty sick. And we've been having some people share some songs, which is cool in there. We have from last week, Chris Bowman hopped in and was talking to everybody and offered free tickets to shows and stuff like that, which was crazy. So, you know, getting the plug, hop in the Discord. We'll chat about iPad stuff and, you know, see if it's anything feasible for anybody. On that note, Josh, thanks for hanging out.
Well, thanks for hanging out.
Listeners, we'll catch you next week. We have some fun interviews coming up that I'm very excited about. But, yeah.
See ya.